In this example, we're given the function f of x equals negative x squared plus 2x plus 8, and we need to find a bunch of things about this function. Well, what type of function is it? What's the highest exponent on an x? It's a 2. It's a quadratic function, and when we graph this, we're going to get a parabola. So the first thing we need to figure out is, does this parabola open up or down? And we're going to compare it to a parabola in general form. And here it is, f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And in our case, what is a? A is the coefficient of the x squared term. So we know a is equal to negative 1. B is the coefficient of the x is 2. And c, the constant, is positive 8. So whether the parabola opens up or down depends on the value of a. A is negative 1, which is less than 0. It's a negative number. If the leading coefficient on the x squared is ever negative, the parabola will open down. If a is positive, it will open up. Now we need to find the vertex. And when the parabola is given in this format, the easiest way to find the vertex is using a formula. And that formula is x equals negative b over 2a. That gives you the x value of the vertex. So in our case, it's the opposite of b, and b is 2. So it's negative 2 over 2 times a is negative 1. So it is negative 2 divided by negative 2, which is positive 1. So the x value of the vertex is 1. Now we have to find the y value of the vertex by plugging 1 into our equation. So the y value is just going to equal the function evaluated at 1. So I'm going to plug 1 in for every x. So it's negative 1 squared plus 2 times 1 plus 8. Now be careful with negative 1 squared. Students mess up on this all the time. This comes from negative x squared. And remember, negative x squared can be written as negative 1 times x squared. So you have to square the number and then take the opposite. So what this means is negative 1 times 1 squared. I need to square the 1 and then take the opposite. Plus 2 times 1 is 2 plus 8. So 1 squared is 1 times negative 1 is negative 1 plus 2 plus 8. So negative 1 plus 2 is 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. So my vertex, the coordinates are 1, 9. Next, we need to find the axis of symmetry. That is a vertical line through the vertex. So all vertical lines have the equation x equals a number. And since it goes through the vertex, what's the number have to be in this case? 1. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. Now we need to find the x-intercepts. We do that by setting y equal to 0, or in this case, f of x equal to 0. So we get 0 equals negative x squared plus 2 times x plus 8. This is a quadratic equation I'm going to have to solve. I don't like factoring when the leading coefficient is negative. So I'm going to multiply both the left-hand side and the right-hand side of this equation by negative 1. Negative 1 times 0 is 0. And when I multiply negative 1 through this whole equation, it just changes all the signs. So I'm going to get x squared minus 2x minus 8. So this is one of the easier factoring problems. The leading coefficient is a 1. So I'm going to multiply 1 times negative 8 and get negative 8. So I need two numbers that multiply to -8, that's a times c, and they have to add to the b term, and what's our b term? -2. Multiply to a negative, the signs are different. Add to a negative, the bigger one has to be negative. So I've got 1 times -8, and 1 plus a -8 is not going to work because that equals -7. 2 times -4 multiplies to -8. 2 plus a -4, does that give me the number I want? Yes, -2. Since a is 1, these are my factors. So I'm going to get 0 equals x plus 2 times x minus 4. Two numbers multiplied together equals 0. Set each of them equal to 0. X plus 2 equals 0 gives me x equals -2 by subtracting 2 from both sides. Second one, x minus 4 equals 0. Add 4 to both sides, x equals 4. Now be careful, these are two separate x-intercepts. The first one has the x-coordinate of -2. And what's the y-coordinate? 0. So -2, 0 is one x-intercept, and the other one has the x-coordinate of 4 and the y-coordinate of 0. That is my second x-intercept. Since I'm running out of room, I'm going to go to the next page. And here's my function. And I've already written down all the information we found on the previous page. Now we need to find the y-intercept, and we do that by setting x equal to 0. So f of 0 equals, 0's up here, so it's going to be -0 squared plus 2 times 0 plus 8. These both turn into 0, so my answer is 8, so the y-intercept is the point 0, 8. So now let's start graphing. The y-intercept 0, 8, nowhere in the x direction, up 8 units in the y direction. Then the vertex is at 1, 9, so x is 1, 1 to the right, y is 9 up here. And the axis of symmetry is x equals 1. That means I have a vertical line going through the vertex, and the graph is symmetric about that line. Then I have my two x-intercepts, so -2, 0, 2 to the left, and 4, 0. So I have 4 points, but because of the symmetry of the graph with this point here, that is 1 unit to the left of the axis of symmetry. If I go horizontally, I have to have another point there by symmetry. So now I have 5 points, so now I can draw in my parabola. And excuse the drawing on this pad, it doesn't look very good at times. Hopefully I went through all my points, put arrows on both ends. So there's my parabola. Now I need to find the minimum or maximum value of the function. Since this parabola opens down, the vertex is a maximum. So this function has a maximum. And what is the maximum value of the function? It is the y value of the vertex, so it is 9. And then we need to figure out the domain. Well, the domain for every quadratic function is all real numbers, which is written -infinity to +infinity. And you can see that because these arrows point down and out. So the graph is going to keep going out in the negative direction. And from here, it's going to keep going out in the positive x direction. So the domain is all real numbers, the range is not. So let's take a ruler and look down here. Is there going to be a graph down here? Yes, notice these arrows. The graph is going to keep going down forever. So my range is going to start at -infinity. The graph's going to come up from -infinity. and then it's going to keep going up. I still have values on the graph. There's still points, but then I get to here. That is the maximum y value this graph takes on, and its y value is 9. So the range goes from negative infinity with a parentheses on it, because you always put parentheses on infinity and negative infinity, comma 9 with a square bracket. So there is our parabola.